What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan back here with another edition of the betting show for Sherdog.com, and it's UFC London this Saturday night as Volkov takes on Aspinall in the main event with lots of English talent, European talent, and worldwide talent indeed on this card. I've seen some people call it like a golden generation for UK MMA, and look, we've heard that with lots of different places before, and we'll only know if it's true or if it happens in a few years when if these people rise to the very top and take home titles. Michael Bisping so far is the only UK fighter to ever win one, so it's going to be tough, and there hasn't been, that regular road ploughed, I suppose, for them to the very top, and this current generation has some very, very good fighters, but it takes more than a good fighter to be a champion. It takes more than 2, 3 or 4 good fighters to have 2 or 3 or 4 champions. It takes an awful lot, so it's very interesting. But this is a key, and this is a big card. And when we're talking about betting, obviously this is the betting show, there are X factors like that which I think go into it, and which I think you need to think about and kind of tease out when you're talking about your bets, because a big part of this as well is that, they think a lot of these fighters could be on their way. This could be Tom Aspinall's last fight for a title shot, maybe. Same could be said for Arnold Allen. It could be the last time you see Paddy Pimblett fighting in the UK, before he goes and on his way to the top, like they expect him to be, like Conor McGregor, Now, do I necessarily agree with that? We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, and in the preview I've done as well over in Sherdog, if that is out by this time. But it's a very interesting card, and I think the fans and that crowd will play a massive X factor as well. Like, these people have been ravenous for MMA since it was taken away from them at the start of the pandemic. The London card was supposed to be the last card, and now it's back, and it's finally here, and those fans are going to be crazy. I think Mohammed Makayev is kicking off the card. We'll talk a little about him in a while, but all of the English hometown fans and British even, or fighters even, as well, will get massive acclaim from the fans and massive backing as well. I wouldn't like to be an away fighter over there, because I know what it's like being at the cards in Ireland. The Irish fighters got massive welcomes from the fans and massive support as well, from the first fight of the night. So that's a big X factor coming in here. Right, last week went pretty well. I got 3 of my 4 bets right. Flyer, no good again. That flyer is never going to come out. I've given up on it now at this stage, although I have another flyer this week, but I don't know, it's just not going to happen. But 3 out of 4 after a couple of bad weeks, that was pretty good last week, so I will take that. Please bet responsibly if you're going to be betting here. Hopefully you did last week, and hopefully you do every week. Don't bet more than you can. Don't be, going mad betting. I know nothing about betting, really, nothing about units or anything like that. I just have the odd fiver the weekend. It's nothing major. Please keep it like that. That's this sort of betting show. I don't want any units or any bull like that. This is more an MMA show than anything else. Let's get into the bets. First bet, Paddy Pimblett wins by submission, plus 200. Boom. I think Paddy Pimblett is a guy who's been completely misconstrued to and by the American MMA sphere, because Paddy Pimblett is a guy who we've seen have 20 fights in MMA, something like at this stage. Let me just pull up his Sherdog here just to get me the exact number. 20 fights. Exactly correct there. He's had 20 fights in his career. Here's a guy, if you've watched these fights, and I think I've probably seen maybe at least 15 of them anyway. Let's put it that way, of Paddy Pimblett's fights. Well, maybe at least 10, we'll say. Definitely between 10 and 15, I would say. He is a guy who has fought everyone. In terms of, he's fought a wrestler, he's fought a striker, he's fought a jiu-jitsu guy, he's shown his wrestling, he's shown his striking, he's shown his jiu-jitsu. And we know what Paddy Pimblett's like. Anyone who has watched Paddy Pimblett's career, it's not hard to tell what he's like. We've seen him. It's not like a guy who coming in, even, say like Ian Gary came in to the UFC. He had, 8 fights or something like that? We've seen a good bit of Ian Gary in those 8 fights, but not as much as you see in 20 fights. Vucinic just fighting this weekend, who I'll mention again later on as well. Only 9 fights in. We know a lot about him. Not as much as someone with 20 fights who has fought the likes of Nad Narimani, Julian Erosa and others. So we know about Paddy, right? And it seems to me Paddy came into his first fight in the UFC. He came out striking, got hit a few times and then knocked the guy out. And lots of people think Paddy's a striker and that he has a great chin and that he'll go forward and he'll strike like that. Okay, Paddy will go out and strike, But Paddy's a way better grappler than he is a striker. Very, very good submissions, very good ground game. To me, that's what Paddy is best at. Now, I'll tell you the other side of my opinion on Paddy in a second, and I have on other previews and stuff as well, in terms of where I think he can go or where I think he will go. But in terms of what he is now, is a fantastic submission artist. If you're looking for the plus points for Paddy Pimblett, that's where you go first. And I think him to win here by submission at plus 200 is a pretty good bet. His opponent on Saturday night, Ricardo Vargas, I don't think he's the best fighter in the world. I've watched a couple of his fights. He's kind of slow and ponderous inside. He has good short shots inside, which I think will actually trouble Paddy. But I think Paddy will come forward, land a few shots, maybe take him to the ground, or else get taken to the ground himself, maybe land on top, and I think he'll end up getting the submission. If I was given any bet, that'd be the bet I would take, and be given that a plus 200. I think that's the way for it. Now, longer term, I think Paddy has a lot of improving to do, and that's no knocking him. It's just from what I've seen and what a lot of people have seen on this side of the pond where Paddy is in his career. Like, I think if he went in at the very best against the very best at lightweight at the moment, he isn't to that level yet. But can he get there with a lot of work? You know, maybe lots of fighters with less talent than Paddy Pimblett have got right up to the top. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Paddy's jump up the ladder and jump into the UFC anyway, and we'll see how it goes in his second fight and beyond. Right, next bet here. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly because I did preview this already and no one wants to hear me go on all day. Arnold Allen, minus 124. This is more of a respect bet than anything, and I have another one next as well, which is more of a respect bet. I think Arnold Allen deserves more respect. I think he is a guy who has all the tools, has all the skills, has done it at 145 for a good few years now, has beaten all comers, deserves to be right up there. Let's put 10 fight streak or something like that together. Arnold Allen has it all, and I think we need to respect him a little bit more. And I think he has the skill set to beat someone like a Dan Hooker. He is so strong. Like, which the Sadiq Youssef fight, just unbelievably strong in that fight. Picked up Sadiq Youssef and threw him down like he was a baby. Just made it so easy. It just wasn't difficult in any way, shape, or form for him in that fight. It was unbelievable. Now, other parts of the fight were a little bit more difficult. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a whole fight of a domination for him, but in that particular area, when he was able to pick him up and throw him down, he's so strong. I think his striking is very good. His grappling when it gets to the ground is very, very good as well. His submissions and all of that. Now, I think one big area for him, when he kind of stoops his head down and hit Hooker to come through the middle, I think he could catch him there. But other than that, and look, not other than that. That's wrong to say. Hooker has ways to win and has a very, very good chance in this fight. But I think Allen, against a guy like Hooker, who's been taken down previously in his fights, who likes to go out there and throw his hands all over the place, take him to the ground, put him down there, use your strength to win that fight. I think Arnold Allen is not afraid to fight a dirty fight either. And if he fights that fight against Dan Hooker, I think he wins this. A minus 124, I think that's a good bet. Next bet I'm going for here, Paul Craig plus 116. Now, Paul Craig should be the favourite here. I can't believe he is coming in here as the underdog. Paul Craig doesn't deserve to be an underdog against Nikita Krylov. He has, if you look at Paul Craig's record over the last while, he has beaten guys who nobody else has beaten, literally. He beat Jamahal Hill in his last fight with the armbar, and he beat Muhammad Ankalaev with the last second triangle choke as well, who we saw winning last week, dominating against, for large parts against Thiago Silva. Why do we go in then and give Paul Craig such disrespect? Like, Paul Craig is a good fighter. People say, he got a lucky submission, he got a lucky submission there, he got a lucky submission there. How can you keep getting lucky submissions? At some stage, you must realise this guy is a great submission artist. And Nikita Krylov, go and look at his record and see how many times he's been submitted. So you have a guy with a really good submission game against a guy who gets submitted. And a guy as well in Paul Craig, whose striking, I think, has improved an awful lot, who's more comfortable in the stand-up, who hits hard as well. I think this is a very good matchup for Paul Craig. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people down from Glasgow, down from Scotland to watch this fight. He'll have a big contingent of fans there as well. And let me tell you what, those Scots are loud. So I like Paul Craig in this one. I'll go through some of the bets later on as well in terms of submissions and things like that. But I like Paul Craig in this one. Let me just briefly stop here for a second because I want to look at Cage Warriors. Now, I'm not sure exactly when this is coming out. Everything's a bit later this week because of the madness of London. But Jordan Vucinic is around minus 200. He was minus 170 when the betting came out first. He's fighting James Hinden on short notice. Was due to fight Paul Hughes. Paul Hughes pulled out with a hurt neck. James Hinden steps in. He was supposed to fight everyone under the sun. This is his third opponent, I think, this week. So it's a tough one. But I think Vucinic, it's a tough matchup. Hinden is a tough matchup because he's a good wrestler. Take him to the ground and things like that if he can. But Hinden showed against Paul Hughes in that first fight in the third round. His takedown defense is really, really good. I expect him to stop a lot of Hinden's takedowns and win that fight on the feet. So if you're looking for a bet in Cage Warriors, that's the one I'd be looking at. If you're looking for an underdog, I think Decky McAleena is almost plus 300 in that fight. His opponent, Tobias Harila, has gone up in weight to fight Decky. He's a mad go-forward fighter, but Decky can counter well, really good submissions, good on the ground. He always gives out when I call him a submission artist because he thinks he says his striking is so good, and we'll get to see it in this one because Harila will come forward and he will look for those strikes in this one here. So really good Cage Warriors card coming up. A lot of it fell out, very unfortunately. Ian Dean has saved the day once more, but that main event there is very, very good. Anyway, back to the UFC. My final of the 4 bets, and I'll give my flyer in a second, is the over. I'm going for the over in the main event, the over 3.5 rounds, and it's minus 110. You can get it at even money in some places, very, very close to that. I think this will just be a long, drawn-out fight. I think it's one of those fights where Volkov will try to make it tough on Aspinall. I really do think that. I think he will try to make it one of those fights where he's jabbing from the outside, trying to make Aspinall come inside, and every time he does come inside, he will be stepping away, stepping to the outside, jabbing off, or getting those couple of steps back. I assume this is the big cage as well, which will be a big advantage, I think, for Volkov. So I look Aspinall as well. I don't think he's going to come into this and then go, right, I'm going to knock him out in the first round, I'm going to knock him out in the second round. I'm sure he'll be looking for that, absolutely. But I think he will be happy to play the technical game and think he can beat Volkov in that technical game. And no, you know what? I think he can as well. If I was to pick someone, I would pick Aspinall. But it's going to be a very close one, a very tight fight, I feel. And I think it's going to go long. I think there might be a couple of takedowns thrown in there from Volkov. Whether he gets them or not, maybe he pushes him up against the fence, and maybe it's one of those ones that's drawn out for a round or two with some clinching, with a bit of a boring fight. Like I don't feel like this one's going to be a classic. Now, I said that last week. I said it'd be drawn out anyway, and I was right. I hope I'm wrong this week, for the sake of it. We get over the bet being wrong. For the sake of the fight itself, I hope I'm wrong. But I don't know. When I think about it, I just do feel it will be a clash of styles that is not a good clash. I for a while anyway. And if someone works it out, it could be a very good clash, and it could be a very interesting finish to the fight, or it could be a very interesting set of circumstances that we have in front of us. But overall, I just think that they don't meld that well in terms of the size of both guys. I think Volkov will be keeping up at the end of that jab and will be good enough as well to kind of keep him away from getting inside too much to land too many big shots. Now, I think Aspinall will kick the leg from the outside. He will land certain shots inside. He will make it look like he's landing shots inside and push him against the cage at times, just kind of make it dirty to break that distance. And he's a very good boxer, Aspinall, as well, and he has ways to break the distance. So I don't think it's just Volkov running around him. In fact, I think it'll be more Aspinall having success than Volkov, but I think it's probably a closer fight than people are saying. So I'm going for that one, over 3.5 rounds at -1. I wouldn't be surprised if Volkov won that, honestly, but I'm definitely going for Aspinall. But I'm hedging my bets there. I'm definitely hedging them. Right, the last bet of the week, the flyer, hasn't been going great so far, but I'm going for Gunnar Nelson to win by KO TKO at plus 550. Now, Gunny's been out for a good while. You know, we all know his issues with injury and everything like that, and he's taken a few losses over his last couple of fights, but he's coming in here short notice. Takashi Sato, who is a good fighter, not a great fighter, good judo, fights a little bit like Gunnar Nelson on the feet with kind of that wide karate stance, and throws his back leg and throws his southpaw straight left, and I think that will play into Gunnar Nelson's hands a little bit. I think he likes fighting against people like that. You know, Conor McGregor is a southpaw karate stylist, or he was earlier in his career anyway. So there'll be absolutely no problem for Gunnar Nelson fighting against that sort of style. And I think if he looks good, if he is the Gunnar Nelson of old, I think it is a good styles matchup for him. Now, if he's not as good as he used to be, it's going to be a problem. It's absolutely going to be a problem, and Sato will take him down, will get on top of him, and will cause him big problems. But if, you know, Gunnar Nelson needs to stop that takedown, needs to stop the judo from playing part, needs to get his striking going as well. And if he can, I think, look, I see this. I see him getting on top using his jiu-jitsu, and maybe Sato surviving and then getting TKO'd from the mount or from the back mount or something like that. That's how I see it going. But the way Gunnar Nelson's striking is underrated as well. He's a few knockouts, you know, in his career, but I could see that. I could see a big head kick or something like that. But it all comes down to me to if Gunnar Nelson looks as good as he once did. If he doesn't, it's going to be a tough fight. But if he does, I think he'll get the finish. Will he get the submission? The submission is most likely, I would say. But if he doesn't get the submission, TKO at plus 550, I like that. I'm going to go for that. So yeah, those are my 5 bets. Now let's run through some of the bets on the night, just the straight up bets here. In the main event, Volkov is plus 109, minus 129 for Aspinall. So I believe that's come in a little bit. Aspinall is still the favourite, but I think he was a little bit wider throughout the week, so that's coming in a little bit as the week goes on. Arnold Allen is the favourite, minus 124 over Dan Hooker, plus 104. I think that's just about right. Paddy Pimblett, big favourite, minus 460. Plus 360 is Vargas. I think that's about right as well. I don't see much in Vargas, to be honest. I think Vargas is little shots inside. He's close countering shots inside, or what could cause an issue for Paddy Pimblett. If Paddy has watched the tape and seen them, I don't think he will have much of an issue, but you never know. You never know with Paddy. You might walk straight into one. Gunnar Nelson straight up is minus 450, plus 350 for his opponent Sato. Let me tell you the price for Gunnar Nelson to win by submission. That's minus 110. Yeah, that's a very low price. You know, that's a very low price. Now, it's a very high price if he gets it, which he probably will, but I'll go for the TKO for plus 550. Molly McCann, she is the favourite here, minus 135 against Luina Catalina, plus 115. You know, Molly with her home country people behind her. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people down from Liverpool supporting herself and Paddy, and she'll have a big backing, as she always does. So that'll be big for Molly, and she loves that as well. Massive fight for me. I love this fight. Elias Topuria against Jai Herbert. Topuria is minus 455. Herbert plus 355. That could be my flyer bet of the week. Topuria used to fight at 135. He's coming up to 155 now. I think he missed weight at 145 recently. He's been forced to move up. I don't think this is necessarily the easiest matchup in the world for him. Herbert hits hard. Look, it's a hard matchup for Herbert as well. Topuria is a very good fighter. Now, I am picking Topuria to win, don't get me wrong, but I think minus 455 is way too big here. Jai Herbert is a really talented guy, a very good fighter. He's been match made as abysmally. He's got really tough matches, and he's better than that. So that to me, if there was a fight at night betting, I don't know if there is, I think Jai Herbert versus Elias Topuria, that's my bet for fight at night. I think that'll be fight at night. Pavlovich versus Abdurahimov. Shami, my guy, is the underdog there. Krylov is minus 185. Craig plus 160. Amir Khani plus 156. Minus 181 for Grundy. I think Grundy's wrestling might be a little bit too much from there. I was looking at Amir Khani there, but no, and obviously in the Krylov fight I just mentioned, I'm going for Craig there. Jack Shore, that's a massive fight for Jack Shore. He is the underdog in that one. Very close though, very close to even. I see he's plus 100 in some places, minus 106 in other places. Timur Valiev is minus 114. I think a lot of people at that price will be on Jack Shore. I think a lot of people will be on him. I chose to avoid that one. I think it's a bit, I think it's a bit close. I think that's a bit on short notice as well, isn't it? It's a tough one on short notice. I'm avoiding that one. Nathaniel Wood minus 305 plus 255 Vince Morales. Nathaniel Wood, a guy I always will tune in for. Was in maybe the most exciting fight in the history of Cage Warriors. If you haven't checked out that, please go and check it out. Him versus Crazy Horse. Absolute war of a fight altogether. Corey McKinnon is a big favourite, minus 237. Elise Reed, plus 202. And Cody Durden even, plus 300 against minus 365, Mohamed Makayev. And if you don't know Mohamed Makayev, this guy is the greatest amateur in the history of mixed martial arts. Over 20 fights unbeaten an amateur. 5-0, I think, as a professional now. Beat the Irish Fighter of the Year for 2020, I think it was. Blaine O'Driscoll in his last fight, who's a very, very good fighter, who could be, UFC standard. I think should probably be in the UFC. He beat him over in Brave in a very, very high level fight. He's coming into the UFC and he's going to make, big waves there. I think he's a guy who needs improvement as well. I don't think he's there in all areas, any areas, but his wrestling is phenomenal. He comes forward and throws hands because he knows he can rely on that wrestling. And this guy is a really good fighter. Watch out for him. I think his first fight of the night, I would tune in for that one. If you want to take a rest after that, but definitely tune in for Mohamed Makayev. Right. My bets to go over him again. Paddy Pimblett by submission, plus 200. Arnold Allen straight up, minus 124. The main event to go over 3.5 rounds is minus 110. Paul Craig to win is plus 160. And Gunnar Nelson to win by TKO KO, plus 550. All right, everyone. I will leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com. Best of luck with the bets this weekend, and I'll see you all next time.